Starting off, I'm going to say that overall, I thought Devilman Crybaby was an okay show. There are many things to like about the series, such as the visuals and the overall aesthetic of the show. The original manga was released in the 80s, and the art style in the show does a great job matching the feeling of that time period. The art and animation isn't very polished from the shows you would expect from today, but it does have a charm to it. I would best describe it as a rough and rugged, and it matches the overall tone of the show. This is a violent show with over-the-top gore scenes, and that rough art style complements it well. Speaking of the gore, the action and fight scenes in the show are pretty great. The final fight at the end of the series was satisfying to watch. The track star's rampage during the track meet was also intense and cool to see, even though I had problems with that scene in particular, which I'll talk about later. But the action of the scene was good. The party things where everything went crazy were really gory and awesome to watch, just for the visuals alone. Even though the art and action in the show were great, there's one big issue I had with the show, and that is the writing. The writing in the show was flat out awful at times. There were multiple instances where a character's actions and interactions with another character were seemingly ignored and forgotten about just a few moments later. And this is especially true with interactions between Akira and Ryo. One example is when Ryo wants to kill Miki right in front of Akira because she saw him in his Devilman form. The two got in a verbal argument which eventually led to Ryu pulling out a gun on both of them and threatening to kill Akira if he didn't hand over Miki. The very next scene we see of them, they are acting like bros while Ryo is driving Akira to the airport so that he can see his parents that are visiting. They are laughing together as if nothing happened the night before. Ryu even throws in a joke about the whole situation. Like, seriously? What what are they even thinking? This dude threatened to not only kill your love interest, but also you, and the very next day you're acting as if nothing happened. This just doesn't make any sense. If I was Akira, I would be fuming. At the very least, I wouldn't talk to Rio for quite a while. The show seems to make the two make up very quickly so it could move along the plot forward. What it looks like to me is that the writer would have been stuck and unsure how to move the story forward if Rio and Akira wouldn't have continued to be buddies at that point, so just suddenly had them make up. This is clearly terrible writing. Another example is pretty much almost the entire second half of the first episode. Ryu is somehow able to find Akira for the first time in a while, takes him on a car ride to some party. On the ride, he tells Akira about this whole demon world and how he knows that demons exist from personal experience he had. He then tells Akira that he wants to try and turn him into a devil man so he could try to fight these demons and save the world. Akira, who we know is a crybaby and isn't exactly the mentally strongest we know based on flashbacks at the very start of the show, is just seemingly all fine and dandy with this idea and blindly goes along with what Ryu wants. Akira doesn't seem to be afraid or freak out when he hears all this. If this were me, either my mind would be racing all over the place and I would be freaking out, or I would think Rio is a drug addict and has gone crazy, especially since he's taken him to some crazy party. Staying calm and agreeing to Rio's plan is not something many, if any, would do, especially to someone with the mental strength and heart Akira has. And on top of all of this whole 10-minute scene is literally just a long info dumping session. Many people have heavily criticized other shows for doing the exact same thing, but no one really seems to mention that with this show. Anywho, in order to summon these demon spirits, Ryu says that there needs to be blood for them to appear. And right in front of Akira, he just starts stabbing and killing people with this broken glass bottle so that there would be blood so that the demon would come. Akira does scream and ask him what Ryu was doing before the demons come and start causing all this chaos. A demon does try to consume Akira and he is able to overcome it and keep his heart human while still having the powers of a demon. That's how he got the name Devilman. He becomes unconscious and stops the other demons at the party before finally passing out himself. When Akira wakes up, Ryo is there with him, and Akira is in shock based on what happened the night before, as he should be. But he's still acting like good friends with Ryo and kind of ignores the slaughter Ryo directly did himself to summon the demons, and also indirectly with the demons he summoned killing so many innocent people at the party. If I was Akira, I would immediately have pieced out from Ryo's place and contacted the police to turn Ryo in. I don't care if you're my childhood best friend, but if you were to cause somebody deaths like Ryo did, I would have no problem at turning you into the police. And he's got a video evidence because Ryo was recording the whole thing on his camera. Now, you may say that, well, Ryo was trying to show and warn the world about the existence of devils so that the world could band together and try to stop them, and that the people sacrificed at the party was for the greater good of humanity. To that argument, I point to episode 6, where Rio exposes a young and upcoming track star as a demon. During the track meet, Rio tricks the track star into drinking this weird drink, and if he sees violent and crazy things like the party where Rio summons a demon, it forces him to turn into a demon. This brings up another writing problem with the show that I will touch on in a bit. Anyway, this high school track meet was being broadcasted on national television, and Rio was able to hack the network and display the clips of those crazy parties in the stadium. A quick side note, these clips were being played inside the stadium between the audience and the field and circled the entire track. They weren't being played on any screens or a projector projecting onto a background on the canvas. They were just kind of floating there, which makes no sense and annoyed me. Back to my original point. So now this demon is being broadcasted on national television and eventually only on Ryo's personal stream, just killing all these people on the track field. Ryo also closed off the exits from the track to inside the stadium, leaving all the runners stuck in there to die from the demon. Akira is yelling and trying to get Ryo to stop, but Ryo just ignores him. It is only then that Akira even begins to start questioning Ryo's actions. He later goes on to still talk and confront Ryo, but it took all of this for Akira to even begin to question Ryo. It shouldn't have taken all these deaths and bad actions by Ryo for Akira to even begin questioning his actions. He should have already gone past that phase at the end of episode 1. At this point, Akira should have realized that Ryo is evil and gotten rid of him. Akira's constant ignorance of Ryo's evil deeds can only be described as bad writing. I want to also touch on what I briefly mentioned before when I talked about Ryo being able to bring out the demon of the track star. That issue shows how poorly explained some of the important details and scenes are. With the example mentioned before, the only glimpse of how Ryo learned to expose demons was in the episode before. He gave Akira a small vial of the same liquid during a normal conversation and had him drink it. During the middle of the conversation, he then showed Akira the same crazy video clips he would later show the track dude. Akira then randomly turned into his Devilman form and went out of control, so we knew Ryo's experiment was successful. The show doesn't describe how Ryo was able to figure out how to do this process to expose the demons from humans. How was Ryo able to create that special liquid? How did he know how to show them the video clips after they drank the liquid? Who did he even test all this on before finding the correct solution? The major plot point is not explained at all and annoyed me. In that same episode, there was another problem I had with them not giving us enough detail. So Ryo closed off the exits from the field while the track star's demon was on a rampage. Miko and Mickey are in there too. Literally everyone around them is dying and there is no escape, and Miko is in shock seeing this. We then see a short 5-second clip of Mickey grabbing Miko's hand and telling her to follow her. The next time we see the two, they're in totally different scenes after this whole incident is resolved. How did these two escape when literally everyone else besides Akira dies because they're trapped? Why didn't the show us how they were able to escape even though all the exits were blocked? I was waiting for either Miko or Akira to use their Devilman powers to help Mickey escape, but nope, they were somehow able to find a way out of the situation when no one else could. I'm not asking for a lot here, just like a minute at most scene that shows how those two were able to escape the field when the 100 or so other people weren't able to. These are just a few examples of bad writing in the show that I wanted to bring up, since all people have been doing is praising the show. The show does deserve the praise though, since overall it was an enjoyable show to watch and was well worth my time. However, people calling this show an early contender for Anime of the Year, while glossing over the major problems of the writing, is something they shouldn't do. I'm fine with people calling this show an Anime of the Year contender, but they should acknowledge and be aware of the show's weak points too. I want to reiterate that I'm not trying to bash on anyone who loved the show. I like the show, I just wanted to share my criticisms of the show and how I thought it could have been better. Let me know what you think of the show, and if you think my criticisms are valid or if you think I'm just nitpicking way too hard. Thank you all for watching.